Hi everyone. Wanted to talk a little bit about embracing that shadow self, that part of you that was responsible for doing things that you're ashamed of, or that part of you that you believe somehow allowed shameful things to happen to you that now you're carrying, that still have a charge, like doors in your psyche that you're like, I don't want to open that door. When I open that door, I'm afraid I'll let a monster out that that will take me over. We have fear. Some of us have fear. I know I used to, about certain things in my past that were just not something I could look at. And I can tell you the freedom that you will get from looking at those things, embracing them, loving either that it happened to you or that you did it, learning from you were doing the best you could at that time. You didn't know you were doing the best you could. And now from where you are, you have a perspective to be able to learn from that and to be able to understand it so it doesn't repeat itself. When you take something and you look at it like, yes, I did that. I'm not proud of it. I can't believe it sometimes, but I did it. Or yes, that happened to me. Because here's the thing, these things that have happened to us, when we get to a place where we're, okay, this is part of the human experience. There's a time when I did horrible things, when we were like, oh my God. Then there were, or there's a time when something so horrible happened to me. And these things have charges and we carry them around. And when we don't take these energies and embrace and hold space for them and learn from them, when we don't do that, they sit and they occupy some part of you that you may not even be aware of on the surface level of your life, but underneath they're there. And when we do look, and what I mean by looking, let me get more, I'll zoom in and be specific. The way that I look now, if you're looking for the first time, you're going to have likely a pretty decent project on your hands. And it's not a comfortable project. You have to be okay with that. Looking at the things that have happened to you that you're ashamed of, or the things you've done that you're ashamed of, it's not going to be comfortable. But I'll tell you, the level of joy and peace and release on the other side of it far outweighs the uncomfortableness that you walk through in doing it. And I want to make it clear that it can become easy once you start doing it, and you have to be aware of this, to just start beating yourself up and feeling more shame because you're looking at the shame. And this is where your mindfulness practice is very important. We don't look at the past to beat ourselves up. We're looking at the past to heal it so it doesn't repeat, both for us and for the world. And every time that we heal something that we're ashamed of in our past, by looking at it, embracing, I did this, taking ownership of it, and forgiveness for it at the same time. By us learning how to do that, we heal it. We take it and shine light on it. And by shining light on it, it can't hide and lurk in the shadows of your subconscious mind, manifesting. These energies inside of us, when we don't look at them, when we don't acknowledge them, they continue to manifest unconsciously. We may not do those things that we're ashamed of. Maybe we do. But it manifests in other ways. It manifests in physical reaction, guilt. You can develop illnesses, chronic illnesses. All sorts of things can come from not looking at things in the past that we're ashamed of, and fully embracing and loving it all. Because here's the thing. The reality of it is, when we really get to the bottom of it, if you're like me, and I know a lot of people are like me in this way that I've spoken to, when you look back at your past, some of those things that were the most painful, were the hardest to walk through taught you something that put you on a new trajectory that, thank God it did, because you learned something and you're stronger and you're more aligned because this thing that at the time maybe felt like the most horrible thing that's ever happened to you became a thing that you learned. That phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I've had a lot of times in my life where inside the most horrible experience came some incredible grace and love, I can't explain, release, and forgiveness. I've forgiven myself for what I've done. And I can tell you, there's a time in my life where I was so unhappy, where I was drinking a quart of hard liquor a day before I quit drinking. And I can tell you, when you're drinking that much, you have lots of behaviors that spin out of that you're ashamed of. Wreckage, things to look at. And I've looked at those things. I took 6 months in the 12-step program writing out on the 4th step, the inventory process. I wrote for 6 months of every one that I ever felt I resented, everything I ever felt bad, felt shame about. I wrote it out, I looked at it, and I really looked at it. And I cleaned up the past where it was appropriate to do that. And I do still to this day. I do an inventory work every morning. I ask myself, what's bothering me? And I look at it. I look at what I'm afraid of every day. And I'm present to it. I don't judge it. I don't linger on it. But I look. And once you've done the initial big look, which is write out everything that you're ashamed of in a notebook, private notebook, or in some secure place. Write it all out. Don't do it, give yourself breaks. You need to meditate heavily before you do it, because as we look at these things, if it's like it was for me, it can be pain, you can create, your stomach can get sick, you can feel uncomfortable because it's so dense sometimes, these things. But we want to walk through that. You take the density away when you look at it. So what I did was I wrote. Notebooks. 6 months of writing. You don't have to do that much writing. You could do it in a day. You could do it in a week. You do it as long as you feel you need to. If things keep coming, just keep writing. Once you have this list, you have one of the most powerful things you've ever created in your life. You have the tool to unlock yourself from your past so that what comes next for you is not influenced by that past. And the next steps you need to do are go through that list and forgive yourself for every single thing. Every one of those things, you ask the universe, is there anything I can learn from this? What's the most loving thing I can do next with this information? And you look at those resentments, those things you're ashamed of. What's the most loving thing I can do next with this? Because that's where the joy in our lives come from. The joy comes from being able to be of service to others with the things we've learned that can help them. Whether it be a passion that we've developed in our lives, or something that's happened to us so we can help someone else who either have done these things and need to forgive themselves, or have had these things happen to them and need to forgive and love themselves. We take this list and we love and we ask, what can I learn from this on every single one of those points? And then we look at the list and we ask ourselves, is there anything I can do in the real world to help make peace? Or if you've done anything that's hurt someone, you look at it and say, is there any way I can be of service to someone because of these things? And you love yourself. And you ask, if you don't have the courage yet to do the thing you need to do to make peace, to do the loving thing, then you pray for that courage. But we look. By looking, you set yourself free. And you learn that this is all about love. And you don't have to do anything other than love anymore. I love you all. I hope this helps.